Dr. Adam Vega's gloved hand hesitated, the delicate alien tendril poised between his fingers. His piercing brown eyes flicked from the tendril to the urgent message blinking on his wrist-mounted device. The text from Captain Alexei Ivanov was terse and unambiguous. Dr. Vega, report to the Eastern Ridge immediately. A discovery of critical importance has been made. Vega's heart rate spiked, his pulse hammering in his ears as he released the tendril, allowing it to spring back to its host plant. The eerie luminescence of the alien flora cast an ethereal glow on his perspiring face. He hastily gathered his equipment, his mind racing with possibilities. Ancient artifacts, uncovered ruins, or could it be an actual alien life form? Adam sprinted across the unfamiliar terrain, his boots crunching on the crystalline soil. He replayed Captain Ivanov's voice message in his head, the Russian officer's voice tinged with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Kepler Prime had already thrown them more than enough curveballs, and Vega couldn't shake the feeling that this latest development was a harbinger of something far more ominous. As he approached the eastern ridge, his breath condensing in the frigid air, Vega's gaze fell upon a massive stone archway, partially obscured by a thicket of alien foliage. The structure pulsated with an otherworldly energy, casting eldritch shadows that danced and writhed like restless spirits. His heart lodged in his throat as he took in the sheer scale of the discovery. Captain Ivanov stood sentinel before the archway, his rugged features etched with concern. Vega slowed his approach, his breathing ragged as he tried to calm his racing thoughts. He steeled himself for the conversation he knew was coming, his traumatic past experiences serving as a constant reminder of the potential dangers that lay ahead. Upon reaching Ivanov, Vega nodded curtly, struggling to maintain his professional demeanor. "Captain," he acknowledged, his voice betraying a hint of the trepidation that gnawed at him. Ivanov returned the nod, his eyes never leaving the enigmatic gateway. "Dr. Vega," he replied, his tone somber. This changes everything." The two men stood in silence, the weight of the discovery pressing down upon them like an oppressive force. Vega's mind raced, thoughts tumbling over one another as he tried to make sense of what he was seeing. He felt a shiver of unease creep up his spine, a primal instinct screaming at him to run, to flee from the unknown. Finally, Ivanov broke the silence, his voice barely above a whisper. "What do you make of it, Doctor?" Vega hesitated, his gaze drawn to the swirling energy that coursed through the ancient stones. He swallowed hard, forcing the words past the lump in his throat. "It appears to be some kind of gateway," he ventured, his voice wavering with uncertainty. "But to where, or to what, I cannot say." Ivanov's jaw tightened, his eyes narrowing as he studied the structure. "And the potential dangers?" he asked, his tone betraying a hint of skepticism. Vega's brow furrowed as he considered the question. Activating an ancient alien gateway without fully understanding its purpose or the consequences. It's like playing Russian roulette with the fate of our entire colony. He paused, his eyes meeting Ivanov's. "We cannot afford to take that risk, Captain." Ivanov's expression was grim, his gaze locked on the swirling vortex before them. "I agree, Doctor," he said, his voice heavy with resignation. "But sometimes, the stakes are too high to play it safe." As they stood before the gateway, the weight of their decision hanging in the balance, Vega couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the precipice of a vast and unfathomable abyss. And as he peered into that abyss, he couldn't help but wonder what nightmarish secrets lay waiting to be unleashed upon Kepler Prime. The air hung heavy with anticipation as the colonists huddled around the ancient gateway. Dr. Vega's heart raced, his palms slick with sweat. Captain Ivanov's voice crackled over the comms. "Initiate activation sequence." Vega's fingers trembled as he input the commands, his mind a whirlwind of doubt and fear. "Activation sequence initiated," he replied, his voice barely audible. The gateway hummed to life, its surface shimmering with an otherworldly energy. The settlers exchanged nervous glances, their breaths held in collective suspense. And then, with a deafening roar, the gateway ruptured, tearing open a jagged rift in the fabric of space-time. A gust of wind tore through the crowd, carrying with it the acrid scent of sulfur and ozone. The ground shook beneath their feet, sending several colonists sprawling. Vega's eyes widened in horror as dark, twisted forms began to pour forth from the rift, their bodies contorting and writhing in impossible ways. "Nightmarish creatures!" Ivanov bellowed, drawing his sidearm. "Defensive positions! Protect the gateway at all costs!" Vega's thoughts raced as he fumbled for his own weapon. His mind screamed at him to run, to flee this terrible place and never look back. But he knew there was no escape. Not now. Not with these monstrous beings bearing down upon them. The creatures surged forward, their unearthly wails piercing the air. Vega's pulse quickened, his breath coming in ragged gasps. He raised his weapon, his hands shaking violently as he took aim. Beside him, Ivanov and the other colonists did the same, their faces etched with grim determination. As the first wave of creatures descended upon them, Vega squeezed the trigger, his shots echoing through the chaos. The creature before him shrieked, its body writhing and convulsing before collapsing in a heap. But for every creature that fell, two more took its place. The battle raged around him, a maelstrom of blood, fire, and screams. Vega fought on, his mind focused solely on survival. But as the tide of creatures showed no sign of abating, he couldn't help but wonder if they had made a terrible mistake. Had their insatiable curiosity doomed them all? With a primal roar, Vega charged forward, his weapon blazing. He would not go down without a fight. He would not let these monstrous beings destroy all that they had worked for. They had come to Kepler Prime in search of a new beginning, and he would be damned if he let it end like this. And so, amidst the chaos and carnage, Dr. Adam Vega fought on, his resolve unyielding in the face of the nightmarish horde. For the sake of the colonists, for the sake of Kepler Prime, he would stand his ground and defend their home, no matter the cost. The acrid smell of singed flesh filled the air as Amelia Vance stumbled through the darkened corridor, her heart pounding in her chest. She clutched her side, feeling the warmth of blood seeping through her fingers. The creature had almost gotten her, its razor-sharp claws narrowly missing her vital organs. She wouldn't be so lucky next time. Amelia's breath came in ragged gasps as she fumbled for her makeshift torch, sparking it to life. The flickering flame illuminated the mangled remains of her lab, the once pristine surfaces now marred by gashes and scorch marks. She scanned the area for anything that might help her survive this nightmare. Her eyes fell upon a shattered vial, its contents oozing onto the floor. It was a highly concentrated alien pheromone she had been studying, one that might just buy her some time. She hastily gathered the viscous substance on a piece of cloth, tying it around her bicep. With a silent prayer, she crept forward, her senses on high alert. As she navigated the treacherous hallways, Amelia's thoughts drifted to Adam. Had he managed to escape the carnage? She couldn't help but worry about her colleague and friend, their shared passion for xenobiology forging a bond that had grown stronger with each passing day on Kepler Prime. Just as she rounded a corner, a monstrous figure lunged at her from the shadows. She dove to the side, narrowly avoiding its snapping jaws. With lightning-fast reflexes, Amelia hurled the pheromone-soaked cloth at the creature, her aim true. The beast recoiled, writhing in confusion and pain, giving her the precious seconds she needed to escape. As she sprinted through the labyrinthine complex, Amelia's mind raced with possible solutions to their dire situation. They had to find a way to close the rift, to stop the relentless onslaught of creatures that threatened to overwhelm them. Finally, she stumbled upon a familiar face. Adam, his eyes wild with desperation. They embraced briefly, their relief palpable. Together, they made their way to the command center, where Captain Ivanov was barking orders to his troops. The room fell silent as they entered, their battered appearance a testament to the horrors they had faced. Amelia and Adam exchanged a grim nod before relaying their experiences to the captain. "We need to close the rift," Adam declared, his voice steady despite the exhaustion etched on his face. "It's our only hope of stopping these creatures from destroying everything we've built here." Captain Ivanov's jaw clenched as he considered their proposal. He knew the risks involved, but the alternative was unthinkable. With a curt nod, he agreed to their plan. "We'll gather what resources we can and prepare for the mission. Time is of the essence." As the room buzzed with renewed determination, Amelia and Adam shared a look of grim resolve. They would face this nightmare head-on, their combined expertise and unwavering determination, the colonists' last hope for survival. Together, they would venture into the heart of darkness, confront the unknown, and fight to reclaim their home. For the sake of Kepler Prime and all who called it their sanctuary, they would not go quietly into the night. Amelia and Adam huddled together with Captain Ivanov, their faces illuminated by the flickering emergency lights in the command center. The room hummed with tension as they discussed their plan to assemble a team of experts to close the rift and save Kepler Prime. Adam's gaze swept over the group, his eyes settling on Dr. Sarah Patel, a young theoretical physicist with an unquenchable thirst for knowledge. He knew her intellect and resourcefulness would be invaluable in deciphering the Gateway's mysteries. He nodded in her direction, and she responded with a determined look. Next, Adam turned his attention to Professor William Chang, an archaeologist who had dedicated his life to studying ancient alien artifacts. His silver hair and neatly trimmed beard lent him an air of wisdom, and his eyes gleamed with the secrets of countless civilizations. Adam gestured to him, and the professor rose slowly from his seat, acknowledging the unspoken request with a grave nod. As the team gathered around the large table, Adam could feel the weight of their responsibility pressing down upon them. He clenched his fists, his knuckles white with tension. There was no room for error. They had to get this right. Dr. Patel spoke first, her voice steady and confident. "We need to understand the Gateway's mechanics if we're going to close it. I've been studying the energy signatures emitted by the rift, and I believe I've identified a pattern." Her hazel eyes shone with fierce determination as she continued. "If we can disrupt that pattern, we might be able to seal the rift and stop the creatures from coming through." Adam's heart raced as he listened to her proposal. It was risky, but it might just work. He turned to Professor Chang, who had been observing the conversation silently. "What can you tell us about the Gateway's creators?" The professor's expression grew somber as he leaned forward, his hands steepled in front of him. "The beings who built this gateway were an advanced civilization, far beyond our current understanding. They harnessed the power of space-time itself, creating a network of gateways that spanned the cosmos." He paused, his eyes scanning the faces of the team before continuing in a hushed tone. "But they were not without their enemies. There were forces that sought to exploit their power, to twist it to their own sinister purposes." A chill ran down Adam's spine as the professor's words sank in. The implications were staggering. They were not only facing an unknown alien threat, but also the dark legacy of an ancient conflict. As the team absorbed this new information, Adam could see the resolve in their eyes. They would not be deterred by the danger that lay ahead. They would delve into the heart of darkness, unlock the Gateway's secrets, and reclaim their world from the nightmarish creatures that threatened to consume it. Together, they would stand against the unknown, their combined expertise and unwavering determination, the last hope for the survival of Kepler Prime. In the makeshift training facility, Dr. Adam Vega's muscles screamed in protest as he heaved a weighted simulation of an alien weapon over his shoulder. Sweat poured down his face, stinging his eyes, but he refused to yield. His life, and the lives of the colonists, depended on mastering this alien technology. Nearby, Captain Alexei Ivanov sparred with Dr. Amelia Vance, their movements swift and precise as they traded blows with practice blades. The clash of metal rang through the air, punctuated by their grunts of exertion. Dr. Sarah Patel observed from the sidelines, her brow furrowed in concentration as she analyzed their fighting styles, calculating the optimal strategies for each team member. Their training was grueling, a relentless grind of physical and mental challenges designed to push them to their limits. But as the days wore on, Adam could see the changes in his team. Their movements grew more fluid, their decisions more decisive. They had become a well-oiled machine, each member relying on the others with a trust forged in the fires of their shared ordeal. Dr. Vega's thoughts drifted back to the professor's chilling words about the Gateway's dark legacy. He couldn't help but wonder what horrors they would face when they finally confronted the creatures on their own turf. As if on cue, Captain Ivanov approached him, wiping the sweat from his brow with a towel. "We need to talk, Adam," he said, his voice grave. "We've received new intel on the rift's location. It's time to put our training to the test. Adam nodded, his heart pounding in his chest. He took one last look at his team, their faces etched with determination and resolve. They were ready. The alien landscape surrounding the rift was a twisted, nightmarish version of Kepler Prime. The once verdant foliage was now a sickly, mottled gray, and the air was thick with an oppressive, otherworldly energy. The team moved cautiously, their senses on high alert as they searched for any sign of the creatures. Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the desolate landscape, sending a shiver down Adam's spine. His team froze, their eyes scanning the horizon for the source of the sound. Without warning, a horde of nightmarish creatures burst forth from the underbrush, their twisted, mutated forms snarling and snapping as they closed in on the team. Adam's blood ran cold as he realized the truth. These monstrosities were once human, their DNA warped and corrupted by the dark forces of the rift. "Fall back!" Captain Ivanov barked, his voice barely audible over the cacophony of snarls and roars. The team retreated, their weapons blazing as they fought to hold back the relentless tide of creatures. Dr. Vega's mind raced, searching for a way to turn the tide of the battle. He glanced at Dr. Patel, who was frantically working on a makeshift device, her fingers flying over the alien technology. "I've got it!" she cried, holding up the completed device. "This should disrupt the rift's energy signature, weakening the creatures." Adam nodded, his heart swelling with pride and gratitude for his team. Together, they unleashed the device, the air crackling with energy as the rift's power wavered. The creatures shrieked in agony, their corrupted forms dissolving into tendrils of shadow as the rift's hold on them was broken. The team stood victorious, their relief palpable as they gazed upon the devastation they had wrought. But their victory was short-lived. As the dust settled, they knew that the true battle was only just beginning. They would need to delve deeper into the heart of darkness, to confront the mastermind and sever the link between their world and the nightmarish realm beyond. And as they stared into the abyss, Adam couldn't help but wonder if they had the strength to prevail, or if they were merely delaying the inevitable. But one thing was certain. They would fight to the bitter end. Their unwavering determination and camaraderie the last hope for the survival of Kepler Prime. In the dimly lit makeshift meeting hall, the remaining settlers of Kepler Prime huddled together, their faces etched with a blend of fear and determination. Dr. Adam Vega stood before them, his eyes scanning the crowd, searching for any sign of wavering resolve. He clenched his fists, the weight of their survival pressing heavily upon his shoulders. "We've faced unspeakable horrors," he began, his voice steady and resolute. "But we've also discovered our strength, our resilience. Together, we can overcome the darkness that has befallen our home." A murmur of agreement swept through the room, and Adam felt a surge of hope. He glanced at his team, each one a beacon of determination. Captain Ivanov, his stern gaze softened by the flicker of unity. Dr. Vance, her usually stern demeanor replaced with fierce resolve. Dr. Patel, her brilliance shining like a beacon amidst the chaos. Professor Chang, his wisdom a guiding light in their desperate quest for answers. As Adam shared their experiences and plans, the settlers listened intently, their eyes gleaming with a renewed sense of purpose. He detailed the nightmarish creatures they had encountered, the revelation of their mutated human origins, and the mysterious gateway that connected their world to an unimaginable realm of terror. "Our mission is clear," he declared, his voice resonating with conviction. "We must close the rift and sever the link between our world and the nightmarish realm beyond." A cacophony of voices erupted in support, their collective strength echoing through the hall. United as one, they pledged to stand against the encroaching darkness, their determination unwavering. With newfound resolve, the team set out to uncover the gateway's secrets, delving deep into the ancient alien structure hidden beneath Kepler Prime's surface. The air was thick with anticipation as they traversed the labyrinthine corridors, their flashlights casting eerie shadows on the walls. As they ventured further, Adam couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, the hairs on the back of his neck standing on end. He clenched his jaw, pushing the unease aside, and focused on the task at hand. In the heart of the structure, they discovered a chamber filled with intricate alien machinery, its purpose obscured by the passage of time. Dr. Patel's eyes widened in awe as she examined the devices, her fingers tracing the ancient symbols etched into the metal. "This is incredible," she whispered, her voice barely audible. The gateway was once part of a vast network, used by a highly advanced civilization for who knows what purpose. The team exchanged glances, their curiosity piqued by the mysteries that lay before them. As they continued their exploration, they unearthed further evidence of the gateway's true purpose, each revelation deepening the connection between their world and the nightmarish realm beyond. But as they delved deeper into the enigma, Adam couldn't help but wonder, would they be able to unravel the secrets of the gateway in time to save their world? Or would they succumb to the darkness that threatened to consume them all? The fate of Kepler Prime hung in the balance, their survival hinging on the tenuous thread of hope that bound them together. And as they stood on the precipice of the unknown, Adam knew that they would face the darkness head-on, their unwavering determination the last bastion against the encroaching nightmare. The inky blackness of the alien landscape swallowed Dr. Adam Vega whole, consuming his every step as he pressed forward. The cold, unyielding ground beneath his boots seemed to groan with each cautious stride, as if the very earth resented their intrusion into its long-hidden secrets. A low hum resonated through the air, a constant reminder of the sinister gateway that loomed in the distance, casting its ominous shadow over their mission. With each passing moment, Adam could feel the weight of their task pressing down upon him like an oppressive force, gnawing at the edges of his resolve. "Stay sharp," Captain Alexei Ivanov growled into his comms, his voice barely audible over the cacophony of otherworldly sounds that filled the air. "We don't know what kind of traps these bastards have laid for us." Dr. Amelia Vance's voice crackled in response, her words tinged with a weary determination that mirrored Adam's own. "I'm scanning for any signs of movement, but so far, nothing." Adam clenched his jaw, his fingers tightening around the grip of his makeshift weapon. He knew that every second they wasted was another moment that the nightmarish creatures could pour through the rift and wreak havoc on their fragile world. As they delved deeper into the heart of the darkness, the terrain grew increasingly treacherous. Jagged rocks and twisted tree-like formations clawed at their clothing, threatening to snare their every step. The air grew thick with a putrid stench that clung to their nostrils, a noxious reminder of the twisted creatures that lurked in the shadows. The team moved with a single-minded purpose, their eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of the elusive gateway controls. Adam could feel the tension coiling in his muscles, his senses on high alert as they ventured further into the unknown. "There!" Dr. Sarah Patel's triumphant cry pierced the silence, her voice trembling with excitement. "I see something. It looks like some kind of control panel." The team raced towards the structure, their hearts pounding in their chests. As they drew closer, Adam could make out the intricate alien symbols etched into the panel's surface, their meaning as enigmatic as the creatures that had unleashed this nightmare upon them. But as they approached, a low growl echoed through the air, and the ground beneath their feet trembled with an unseen force. "Get back!" Adam roared, his instincts screaming a warning as a monstrous creature emerged from the darkness, its twisted form a grotesque mockery of their own. The team sprang into action, their weapons blazing as they fought to hold the creature at bay. Adam felt a white-hot surge of adrenaline coursing through his veins as he faced the nightmare head-on, his every muscle straining with the effort to keep the beast at bay. As they fought, Adam could see the toll the battle was taking on his team. Their faces were etched with lines of exhaustion, their bodies bruised and battered from the relentless onslaught. But even in the face of such overwhelming odds, their determination never wavered. With a final, desperate surge of strength, they managed to drive the creature back, its howls of fury echoing through the darkness as it retreated into the shadows. Breathing heavily, Adam turned back to the control panel, his eyes scanning the alien symbols for any clue as to how they might close the rift and end this nightmare once and for all. But as he stared at the enigmatic markings, a cold realization washed over him. The symbols weren't just a means to control the gateway. They were a warning, a desperate plea from a long-lost civilization to keep the darkness at bay. And as he looked into the faces of his team, Adam knew that they were running out of time. The creatures would keep coming, relentless in their pursuit, until every last survivor on Kepler Prime was consumed by the nightmare. With grim determination, Adam turned back to the panel, his fingers tracing the ancient symbols as he whispered a silent prayer to the gods of this forsaken world. They would find a way to close the rift, or they would die trying. For the sake of their world, there could be no other option. The air reeked of sulfur and charred flesh, a constant reminder of the nightmarish creatures that had plagued Kepler Prime since the rift opened. Dr. Adam Vega's heart pounded in his chest as he frantically worked to decipher the alien symbols on the control panel. His fingers trembled, leaving streaks of blood and grime on the cold, unyielding surface. Behind him, Dr. Amelia Vance and Captain Alexei Ivanov fought back to back, fending off the relentless onslaught of grotesque monstrosities that clawed and gnashed at them. Vance's makeshift spear, fashioned from the remnants of their shattered equipment, flashed and gleamed with every desperate thrust, while Ivanov's rifle cracked and spat fire into the darkness, buying them precious seconds to breathe. As Vega's eyes flitted across the panel, a sudden flicker of recognition ignited within him. The symbols seemed to shift and coalesce, forming a pattern that spoke of a dark and sinister purpose. A chill ran down his spine as he whispered, "The mastermind. It's been manipulating us all along." Vance snarled, driving her spear through the eye of a snarling beast before it could sink its fangs into her exposed neck. "What are you talking about, Vega?" "The gateway, the creatures. It's all been orchestrated by a single entity. It's been using us as pawns in its twisted game." Ivanov grunted, wrestling a hulking monstrosity to the ground before plunging his combat knife into its skull. "We don't have time for this, Vega. We need to close the rift, now." Vega's fingers danced across the symbols, his mind racing to unravel the ancient enigma before it was too late. "I'm trying, but it's not just a matter of closing the rift. If we don't deal with the mastermind, it will just find another way to destroy us." The creature's howls grew louder, more frenzied, as if sensing the desperation in their prey. Vance and Ivanov fought with every ounce of strength they had left, their bodies bruised and battered, their resolve unbroken. As the symbols on the panel finally aligned, a sudden surge of power coursed through the gateway, and the air crackled with energy. Vega's eyes widened in horror as he realized the terrible truth. "We've been wrong all along. The rift isn't just a doorway between worlds. It's a prison." Vance's spear clattered to the ground as she turned to face Vega, her eyes wide with shock and disbelief. "What have we done?" The ground shook beneath their feet as the rift pulsed and writhed, tearing at the very fabric of reality. The creatures faltered, their howls turning to wails of anguish as the darkness that had birthed them began to consume them once more. Vega could only watch in stunned silence as the true extent of their folly unfolded before them. The mastermind had used their fear and desperation to manipulate them into releasing the ancient evil it had imprisoned millennia ago. And now, they faced a choice: surrender to the nightmare, or find the strength to stand against it and reclaim their world. With grim determination, Vega turned to Vance and Ivanov, his voice steady and resolute. "We've been played for fools, but we won't go down without a fight. We need to find the mastermind and put an end to this once and for all." As they gazed into the swirling vortex of the rift, the darkness seemed to laugh and jeer at their defiance, daring them to challenge its dominion. But within that abyss, there was also a flicker of hope, a glimmer of the world they had fought so hard to protect. And with that hope burning in their hearts, they stepped forward into the unknown, ready to face whatever horrors awaited them in the name of survival.